I also request Dr. Rajiv Kumar to formally welcome our guest of honor, Shri Saurabh Goyal. I also. I request our distinguished fellow Ashish Kumar to hand over a small memento and gratitude. So we planted. I'll request our distinguished fellow Ashish Kumar to hand over. So we planted few trees in your name, and this barcode will keep a track and monitor its progress. Without much ado, I'll request Dr. Rajiv Kumar to deliver introductory remarks.
Good morning, everybody. Honorable Minister of Commerce and Industry, Shri Piyush Goyal, Secretary Mosque, Shri Saurabh Goyal, my colleague Ashish Kumar, and Ravi Lokhar, Executive Director of Multimedia Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, what a pleasure to welcome you all here on the launch of our report on the e-commerce and its impact on employment and consumer welfare. This has taken us 6 months of hard work, and we've surveyed about 12,000 entities of all kinds, which is the consumers, the vendors, the suppliers, and all of that, and the result is here with you. I just wanted to say a very few words on India Foundation's way of working, and which is that we want to make policy recommendations or do any study only after the strictest empirical evidence is being collected, and not on any other basis. That's the principle on which we work, and this report also symbolizes that in many ways. The Pele India Foundation was established in 2013, and we have continued to work over the last 10 years in different sectors: financial sector, health, natural farming, e-commerce, ease of doing business, and now we are getting into tourism also. Just to say here that the last work that was done on impact of large retail on the consumer welfare and the economy was actually done in Ikria when I was the chief CEO there in 2008. And it's taken 16 years really for another such evidence-based, survey-based work to have been now come out again. And I think it will be important to listen to what the results are. And just one word, that e-commerce itself is transiting very quickly. Its share has increased, but nonetheless its share is only 8% now, less than 8% of the total. So that the fears that we have very often, and I was discussing with the Honorable Minister here, that the fear that we have that this is going to be hugely disruptive will have to be looked at, as it were, objectively. But one thing is clear, and I'll stop here, which is that e-commerce has generated high quality employment in the country and in large numbers. And I think that's what we were looking for. And I think that's an unambiguous result that has come out. And given the importance of generating high quality employment in our country, I think we need to follow through with the progress of e-commerce. And now, as I was discussing with another person here from the Prime Minister's office, from e-commerce to quick commerce and hyper-local, I think that's the way to go. And we look forward to further progress in this regard. Thank you all very much again for here. Special thanks to Joseph for being here with us today, and to Mr. Garg for being here. And once more, welcome, and I look forward to discussions here and to your participation. Thank you.
I'll request Mr. Ashish Kumar, who is spearheaded today.
क्या कर रहे हैं प्रोग्राम करके आते हैं
I'll request Mr. Ashish Kumar, our distinguished fellow who has spearheaded the entire research, to quickly share the findings in 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Ravi. Let me just introduce a little bit about this study and the background. We all know retail is the engine, and we are looking forward to push this engine as much as possible. And purpose of this study was to look at the small segment, but a fast expanding segment of this retail. At present, it is about 7.8% of the total retail space. And this is based on the studies already carried out. Absolutely, yeah. And now, we are expecting that it will grow at the rate of 27% per annum. So, a higher growth rate we are expecting. Now, what is the main objective of this study? There are two main objectives of the study. Assess the net, direct, indirect, and induced impact of the growth of the e-commerce on employment, both in terms of quantity and quality, and evaluate the impact of growth of e-commerce on consumer welfare. Two aspects we are looking for. And what we have done is we have a partner here, the PRICE, the People's Research on India's Consumer Economy. They have helped us in carrying out the field survey and data processing. That work we did with their help, and we have been able to do this study in 35 cities across the country. This selection of the samples was very scientific. Stratification we did, and in terms of number of markets, in terms of number of people who are in different age groups, in terms of their gender. All that stratification has been taken care of, and we surveyed about 8,209 respondents, the consumers, about 2,031 offline vendors, and 2,062 online vendors. This is the distribution, which is a fairly large number of entities have been surveyed, and proper stratification has been done, and the selection has been made scientifically using the statistical techniques. Now, what kind of information we have collected is basically on the employment, how it is changing, how it is increasing, how it is decreasing, and what kind of roles have been created by this e-platform or e-commerce, and what kind of roles have been closed, which is not required. And then the second thing is what kind of skill sets are required for carrying out this whole e-commerce. On the consumer welfare side, we have studied the consumer purchase behavior, their preferred modes of payment, that is cash on delivery, UPI, or other platform-specific balance. Then the consumption pattern, whether they are consuming what is the share of online trading versus online purchases or offline purchases, their reasons for preferred mode, and any perceived savings they have due to this whole adoption of the e-commerce platforms. Now, one of the issues which have been coming up is that brand which are available through these systems. These provide a large number of access to the different kind of brands where a comparison is possible. And that is one area which has been tried to study. And also the problems in shipping. So one of the complaints which have been coming is that sometimes the things are shipped, sometimes they are not of our standard quality, we can show, and those kinds of things. Now, major finding in terms of more numeric numbers a little bit, average number of jobs per vendor have been in online about 8.75 on an average, so about 9. Offline mode, it is about 6. And omni-channel, that means those vendors which have both online and offline presence, it is about 8. So there is a 54% more people getting employed this e-commerce vendoring. And this is almost 12 which the female employees are employed. So that's a situation, that's an advantage of adoption of the e-commerce. Now, it has been stated that retail enterprises, about 1.6 million enterprises, throughout the country participate in the online space, and they have created about 15.8 million jobs, out of which 3.5 million were for women. So this is empowering women, and a lot of people, because otherwise normally in offline stores, women's participation is much less. The nature of jobs which have been created are mostly management and marketing. These are the major jobs created. And what are the skills required nowadays for this e-commerce platform is data management, social heaviness, packaging and delivery, and inventory management. They have become all the more important than others. Now, in terms of business performance, there are those offline vendors who have shifted to online or have shown that they have a better sales and better profits, higher sales and higher profit after they have shifted, because access has improved. The access to the markets have improved, resulting into this improvement. A comparison has been made that on an average per customer, where they get more than 500 sale, that is what is larger in number of those who are in the omni-channels, on the omni-channels and the e-platform. So employment is one. Also exports, we have collected some information, which may be worth mentioning. The exports through online vendors has been there, small but 12% or so, and they are increasing even for about 8% for 25 to 75% vendors reporting their exports. Now, on the welfare side, we have developed a index on 6 parameters. I'll just be concluding in 30 seconds. There are convenience, access and inclusion, consumer confidence, cost effectiveness, healthy competition, and grievance redressal. And most of the complaints were in the form of grievance redressals. So ultimately, our take is that this segment is going to grow faster, but grievance redressal systems have to be improved. That is what we are looking forward. Thank you.
Now I'd like to request our chief guest and Honorable Minister of Commerce and Industry, Shri Piyush Goyal, to deliver his address. So.
Thank you very much, Ravi. Mr. Rajiv Kumar, former Vice Chairman of Niti Aayog and Chairperson of Pehle Foundation. My good friend Saurabh Garg, with whom I've worked very closely over, I think now more than 10 years, and somebody I look up to for hopefully revamping the entire statistics system in our country, which needs a complete overhaul. And I am sure under his leadership we'll see some game-changing improvement in how we evaluate and how we collect statistics. Thank you, Ashish ji, for your overview of the report. I'm sorry to rush you, but I would have to leave soon. My compliments to Rajiv ji for taking out this report. It compiles what other international organizations have been saying for some time, and then they followed it up with a very exhaustive study on the ground to understand the impact of e-commerce on employment, on small vendors, small retail, micro enterprises, and they've come up with certain findings. I've taken the permission of Rajiv Kumar ji only to make your next 2 sessions more lively and make the debate more useful from the country perspective, to say that whatever little I've been able to read and see of this report, I would like to completely disassociate myself from this report. So at the outset, let me be clear that I do not agree with any of these findings. There are a lot of young boys and girls here, a lot of experts. I do hope in the next 2 sessions you will study what these findings say in much greater detail than what I have been able to do in this short time. But I think in the urge to show that this has not had an impact on employment in India, the researchers have lost sight of even the statistics which Ernst & Young has put out. First of all, I don't believe that they really know what's happening in the ground, on the street, in the villages of India. I don't know what is the Ernst & Young source or basis. But let me go by the Ernst & Young data itself. They have themselves in this report written, based on Ernst & Young reports, that in 2019, the share of e-commerce was 4.7%. That's the report written here. And by 2022, they say it has grown to 7.8%. And Rajiv ji said, probably, I don't know what Ashish ji, whether he endorsed that, said that it's nothing to worry about. This growth from 4.7 to 7.8 in 3 years is nothing to worry about. At the same time, the authors have said that the growth of e-commerce is at 27% annually. And they look at it as a source of pride, as a matter of satisfaction, as something very good for India. Now, while all our youngsters here, and including my children, may be using e-commerce quite extensively, we must remember that what we are doing today is going to determine the future of India 20 years, 10 years down the road. Now just do the maths. Anybody here who's from maths or economics will calculate it very quickly, faster than I did. That 4.7 growing to 7.8 in 3 years really confirms the 27% growth he's saying, which in effect means that every 3 years or less than 3 years, in 2.5 years, e-commerce will actually grow to double what it is today. But let us take 10% growth in retail demand. Factor in that also, there is a 10% natural growth with the economy which is showing a 10% nominal growth. When you factor that in also, you're looking at 27 minus 10% natural growth, 17% growth every year in e-commerce, which straight away translates to doubling e-commerce in India every 4 years. Not my statistics, it's what's written here. And what Ernst & Young has probably brought out, again, I don't know the source. So going by his statistics in the book, 4.7% e-commerce share in 19, 7.8 e-commerce share in 22. They've also written they estimate 24 to be 10.7%. It's in the book, which only validates my assumption that every 4 years it's doubling. May not double always every 4 years. As it reaches greater levels, they'll start peaking off. But even if I was to take only 2 cycles of growth in the next 8 years from 24 to 32, effectively we are saying 24, 10.7%, 28, 21.4%, and 32, 43%. Just keep that back of your mind. Now I'll give you an aspect of e-commerce which has been really troubling me a lot. In the same report, there are some details. Here it is. There are some details on page 33, which I'd like you all to debate in the rest of the conversation, where they've estimated the growth and the market share of food and grocery, apparel and accessories, jewelry and watches, consumer electronics, home and living, pharmacy and wellness, others, and footwear. They've themselves given what is the current share and what is the estimated growth rate. Now I'd like you to consider one aspect of e-commerce, and I'm sure our young boys and girls here will seriously debate this issue. I hope Statistics Ministry also takes this up as a serious task for you to do. E-commerce doesn't attack every part of the retail store. If any of you has ever studied a retail store, it may have 100 items on display. But out of those 100 items, it's not as if all of them have an equal contribution to the survival of that retail store. There will actually be 70 items which will just be loss leaders. He'll make no money out of it, probably a loss at 60-70% of the items. There'll be another 10, 15, 20% which will be a nominal profit. He can make a living out of that. It's the 5 or 10% items which really make him the good profit. So if I may take a case in point, you must have seen that a medical store also keeps chocolates. What is the chocolates got to do in a medical store? He needs certain items which give him 30%, 25%, 40% return. They often keep cosmetics, if you would have observed. And certain day-to-day items which we all need. Those are the ones which give him some surplus in his hand. What does e-commerce do? We all think that, oh, they are making things so much cheaper. If I go to a store and buy a 5-star chocolate or a box of chocolates, it's going to cost me 500 rupees. I can get it delivered on e-commerce for 350 rupees. It's because that's the item which had the largest margin. E-commerce is eating into the small retailers' high value, high margin products, which are the only products through which he survives. And therefore you will see that on particular items, the growth rate is phenomenal. In the same report, you are saying, sir, that food and groceries is only growing between 0.5 to 4%. Could also be because according to them, food and grocery penetration is already 66%. It's wrong. Food and grocery is not 66%. Even today, the minuscule population which is on e-commerce, a large section still goes to the bhajiwala on the corner and buys his vegetables. We still order at the grocery store, atta bhej dena, tel bhej dena, all those items. So this figure itself is basically wrong, but the growth rate is also low. And where is the growth coming from? Apparel, 14 to 18%. Jewelry and watches, 4 to 6%, because their look and feel matters. You don't buy jewelry on an e-commerce site. You go to the jewelry store or to a watch store. You want to see how does it look. You want to feel it. You want to put it in your hand and then make a choice. Just the photograph can't show you what to buy. But consumer electronics, anybody wants to guess what the growth rate is? 26 to 28%. High margin business, look at the growth rate. Home and living, 8 to 11%. Towels and napkins and mattresses don't have a huge margin. Again, you want to actually feel that it's good enough. Pharmacy and wellness, they say 6 to 18%. My own information, it's growing very fast. Others is 8 to 11. And footwear, even though the base is small, 1%, footwear provides millions of people jobs. When you go to e-commerce, all those small shops, go to Kolaba in Mumbai, there are 40 stores selling Kolhapuri chappals. And what's the growth rate? 16 to 24%. Think about it, young men and women. What are they edging and wedging into? Products of high margin based on which more than 10 million retail stores in the cities, and possible estimates are probably 100 million small retailers all across the country. Go to even the smallest village, there'll be 7-8 retail stores, 10 retail stores, 6 lakh villages in the country. There will be somebody selling grocery, there will be 2 or 3 people selling apparel, there may be a jewelry store, there could possibly be a pharmacy, if not in one village, in the panchayat, 2.5 lakh panchayats. Just think about it. Are we going to cause huge social disruption with this massive growth of e-commerce? And I don't see it a matter of pride that half our market could possibly become a part of the e-commerce network 10 years from now. It's a matter of concern. And bear in mind, I don't know what the calculations of employment and how they come from, but we've all heard that old adage, which I confirm from Saurabhji, just so that I don't make a mistake. I remembered a different version, but he wanted to be more polite. There are lies, damn lies, and then there are statistics. But we should take it in the right spirit. I'm glad that Rajiv ji and his team have at least jogged us to start assessing this subject based on data, based on empirical evidence. I'm being contrarian to the perception sought to be made because we've seen this happen in the West. I dare say Europe, America all have seen the consequences of this. What has happened to the corner store, the mom and pop stores there? How many of them do you see surviving? Why did Switzerland not allow e-commerce to come in until very recently? Or in fact, even now, I think it's very limited. One of my visits to Geneva, our our ambassador to WTO told me that they can't order anything on Amazon or Flipkart. So they order in France. It comes to the border, which was near his home in Switzerland. And then they pick it up from the border. But I'm not wishing away e-commerce. It's there to stay. But we'll have to, since this is a study about the impact, it should be dispassionate. It should come out with even more details that what is happening with the restaurants in India. What are these kitchens? What are they called? Cloud kitchens. What is the impact of these cloud kitchens? Very nice, 4 or 5 chefs will get a work there and 4 or 5 delivery boys. Of course, we'll end up becoming a country of couch potatoes, watching OTT and having food at home every day. Really, the outing also is a part of human development. When we go out to have dinner, when we go out to have coffee with a friend, the Airtel ad says it all. What does that say? हर एक फ्रेंड जरूरी होता है और फ्रेंडशिप घर पे बैठ के ओटीटी पे स्विगी और जोमेटो ऑर्डर करके फ्रेंडशिप्स नहीं क्रिएट होती है, वो तो कॉफी शॉप में जाके क्रिएट होती है. बट आई डोंट डिनाई दैट ई कॉमर्स हैज अ रोल, but we'll have to think very carefully and cautiously what that role is, how that role can be in a more organized fashion. Is predatory pricing policies good for the country? When Amazon says we are going to invest $1 billion in India and we all celebrate, we forget the underlying story that $1 billion is not coming in for any great service or any great investment to support the Indian economy. They made $1 billion loss in their balance sheet that year. They have to fill in that loss. And how did that loss get caused? They paid 1,000 crores to professionals. I don't know who these professionals are. I'm myself a chartered accountant. I've done law. But I'd love to know which chartered accountants, professionals, lawyers get 1,000 crores. Unless you're paying all the top lawyers to block them so that nobody can fight a case against you. You can take retainership with all the top lawyers and then there's nobody left to fight against them. If you make 6,000 crore loss in 1 year, does that not smell of predatory pricing to any of you? What did that loss come on? They are after all an e-commerce platform. They are not allowed to do B2C. The e-commerce platform legally cannot do business to consumer. They create entities where Indians contribute to making those entities, sadly. Then they get caught, so they start closing down those entities. That's part 2 of the story. But they only reroute all the business through an entity to show that it's business to business. But reality is all of you buy on these platforms, don't you? How do you buy? B2C is not allowed on these platforms. How are they doing it? Should this not be a matter of concern for all of us? So it's a very difficult subject to just bring out some details of jobs created in the sector. We'll have to assess what is happening to the 5 lakh pharmacies in the country. I remember when I was a child, my local pharmacist would keep a watch. If I bought too much Benadryl, he's going to tell my mother, देख लो बच्चे को Benadryl का कुछ लत तो नहीं लग रही है. Do you all remember those days? Who's going to take care of our children today? Online you can order what you want. I don't know what kind of course it's called drugs and pharmaceuticals, so I don't know what's getting ordered. It's a matter of concern that local pharmacist would take your prescription. He knew all the local doctors around. He would check the genuineness of that prescription and make sure your children are protected. Who's going to take that protection? That delivery boy who checks on your phone a prescription? How old is it? What does it cover? Think about it. How many mobile stores do you see now in the corner? And how many were there 10 years ago? Where are all those mobile phones? Will only Apple or the large retail sell mobile phones and their accessories? And obviously now there's no recourse to go and get it repaired because they want you to buy a new phone. They don't want to repair the old phone. Which is why Consumer Affairs Department last year came out with the right to repair. And I hope all of you are aware that you have a right to ask your supplier to repair your phone. Otherwise, take him to the consumer court. Just write in a complaint, they'll take care of you. Recognize, my friends, India is a developing country. We are not yet America. We are not Switzerland with $100,000 of per capita income. All of us in this room in Oberoi are privileged to be here. There's a large section out there who still deserves our affirmative action, who still needs help. Every child in this country has not got the privilege to come to this type of sessions or this type of interactions. We'll obviously get an edge up. And therefore, even when it comes to jobs, when it comes to opportunities for the future of India, I think all of us will have to play our part. Of course, I don't deny that technology will play its part. Technology is a means to empower, is a means to innovate, is a means to meet consumer requirements, probably sometimes more efficiently. But we'll have to see that this grows in an orderly fashion. We will have to see that this connectivity, this convenience is citizen-centric. It democratizes or socializes the benefits to larger sections of society. It ensures that in the race for market share, and a growing market share at 27% a year, we don't land up causing huge disruption for the 100 million small retailers across the country who also serve. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir. As you rightly said, we have a lot of things to discuss over the next 2 sessions now. Obviously, it was very thought-provoking. So we'd like to thank you. And we'll decide. Yeah, of course. Yes, sir. Thank you. No, thank you so much for speaking out your mind. And it was a very thought-provoking one. So I'd like to thank you.
Ravi, Mr. Rajiv Kumar, former Vice Chairman of Niti Aayog and Chairperson of Pehle Foundation. My good friend Saurabh Garg, with whom I've worked very closely over, I think now more than 10 years. And somebody I look up to for hopefully revamping the entire statistics system in our country which needs a complete overhaul. And I am sure under his leadership we'll see some game-changing improvement in how we evaluate and how we collect statistics. Thank you, Ashish ji, for your overview of the report. I'm sorry to rush you, but I would have to leave soon. My compliments to Rajiv ji for taking out this report. It compiles what other international organizations have been saying for some time, and then they followed it up with a very exhaustive study on the ground to understand the impact of e-commerce on employment, on small vendors, small retail, micro enterprises, and they've come up with certain findings. I have taken the permission of Rajiv Kumar ji only to make your next two sessions more lively and make the debate more useful from the country perspective, to say that whatever little I've been able to read and see of this report, I would like to completely disassociate myself from this report. So at the outset, let me be clear that I do not agree with any of these findings. There are a lot of young boys and girls here, a lot of experts. I do hope in the next two sessions you will study what these findings say in much greater detail than what I have been able to do in this short time. But I think in the urge to show that this has not had an impact on employment in India, the researchers have lost sight of even the statistics which Ernst & Young has put out. First of all, I don't believe that they really know what's happening in the ground, on the street, in the villages of India. I don't know what is the Ernst & Young source or basis. But let me go by the Ernst & Young data itself. They have themselves in this report written, based on Ernst & Young reports, that in 2019, the share of e-commerce was 4.7%. That's the report written here. And by 2022, they say it has grown to 7.8%. And Rajiv ji said, probably, I don't know what Ashish ji, whether he endorsed that, said that it's nothing to worry about. This growth from 4.7 to 7.8 in 3 years is nothing to worry about. At the same time, the authors have said that the growth of e-commerce is at 27% annually. And they look at it as a source of pride, as a matter of satisfaction, as something very good for India. Now, while all our youngsters here, and including my children, may be using e-commerce quite extensively, we must remember that what we are doing today is going to determine the future of India 20 years, 10 years down the road. Now just do the maths. Anybody here who's from maths or economics will calculate it very quickly, faster than I did. That 4.7 growing to 7.8 in 3 years really confirms the 27% growth he's saying, which in effect means that every 3 years or less than 3 years, in 2.5 years, e-commerce will actually grow to double what it is today. But let us take 10% growth in retail demand. Factor in that also. There is a 10% natural growth with the economy which is showing a 10% nominal growth. When you factor that in also, you are looking at 27 minus 10% natural growth, 17% growth every year in e-commerce, which straight away translates to doubling e-commerce in India every 4 years. Not my statistics, it's what's written here. And what Ernst & Young has probably brought out, again, I don't know the source. So, going by his statistics in the book, 4.7% e-commerce share in 19, 7.8 e-commerce share in 22. They've also written they estimate 24 to be 10.7%. It's in the book, which only validates my assumption that every 4 years it's doubling. May not double always every 4 years. As it reaches greater levels, they'll start peaking off. But even if I was to take only 2 cycles of growth in the next 8 years from 24 to 32, Effectively, we are saying 24, 10.7%, 28, 21.4%, and 32, 43%. Just keep that back of your mind. Now I'll give you an aspect of e-commerce which has been really troubling me a lot. In the same report, there are some details. Here it is. There are some details on page